Hey guys, welcome back to Jason Joni Builds. We are working on window frames today. In our quest to start body work, I've been starting hanging all the steel, getting the doors lined up and square, working on the fenders, getting those square. Started taking some measurements on both sides of the Bronco, and I had a discrepancy sort of towards the window tops. And I was actually working on my gap, my windshield gap to my door, and kept messing around, and finally found out what the issue was. It's called aftermarket parts. So, you guys have, you that have built before know my pain, and y'all that are starting your restorations, these are some things that you might want to watch for. And instead of me just going out and fixing it, I went ahead and decided we would do a quick video on how to address these window frames. Okay, so this is my new door frame. It's a Dynacorn. It came with the doors. I ordered these with the doors. I got the complete door shell assembly. And here's one of the old ones. So the dimension that was throwing me off was I was hanging my tape in the post. Let me show you this real quick. I was hanging my tape in the post at the back of the Bronco and measuring up to the corner of my door where the window is. Because all my dimensions are really, really close. If I measure from here to the front of my door, to my fender, to the windshield frame, basically making sure I've got all my Bronco in and out like it's supposed to be. But when I pulled this dimension, I was off almost 3/8 of an inch. And couldn't figure it out, and finally got my angle gauge and set it on there. And we were a little bit more than a degree off on each side. So I went and found some of my old frames and I measured them, and my passenger side and the old frames are very close, but the driver's side is way off. So let me go back down here and show you what I found. So we'll start off with the original. And you may ask why I'm not using the original frame. It's because it's already compromised down here at the bottom, both sides. And I would hate for this thing to start bending. And it's actually got a stress crack on the back side. So with these frames, I just didn't want to take a chance. But then I have to deal with these problems. All right, so I lay my square across the top of the door and make sure across the top of the door is square, and then I push the frame back so where it's just even with the back of the door. I've got, let's see, 5/8 of an inch. Now if I do this same thing to this repop door frame, check this gap out. And that is 1 1/8 inches. So this right here is where my issue comes in, because when I go to the other side, I'm getting 3/4 of an inch. I believe we'll go look at that and check it and make sure. I've got 2 more door frames outside. I went and checked those, and they're all between 3/4 of an inch and 1 inch. And right now I'm at 1 1/8 inches. And if I can tighten that up 3/8 of an inch, I believe that's what my dimension was off. And then we'll be right where we're supposed to be. So we'll walk over and look at that one. So we're measuring from the same place on this one. And we're 3/4 of an inch. So 1 1/8 inches, 3/4, yeah. So that's 3/8 of an inch off on that other one. So we're gonna have to cut it and fix it. Okay, I should be able to tweak it once I cut it down the front. I'm just gonna cut through this edge, all the way through. I'm gonna leave this attached, and I think I should be able to tweak it, push it out, and I'm gonna do the same thing on this front edge. I'm gonna cut it all the way through the front, and that way I can tighten this angle up too, because both of them have to move. We're gonna cut it and see what happens and re-weld it, because this is how they were put together anyways, and they did a really bad job grinding it. So it's not really the end of the world. It's just, you hate to have to fix brand new parts. So now, what I should be able to do is, yeah, you see it move right there, Joni?
Yes.
It tightened up. And then we'll have to do the same thing down here. That one goes this way and this one should come in. It kind of goes in the opposite direction. So now we can get our square and check our dimensions.
You can already see a difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
So I actually went too far with it. Just that width of that cut. Let's see. Yeah, because before you could almost see that gap right there, remember?
Mm-hmm.
So. That's 3/4 of an inch right there. So now, I don't want to tweak this one anymore. Once we get it set, we want to leave it 3/4 of an inch. But what we want to do now is work our dimension. It's 35 3/4, 35 7/8, right here between where this slides down into the door. So, you know, you can have a little variance because this right here is pretty flimsy, even when it's welded up. So, and that dimension is from the backside edge here. I need to, well, that's got to come quite a bit. This didn't have to go as far as it looked. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is just we'll go ahead and fill this, get this welded in nice. Both sides, I've checked my dimensions. I'm at 35 3/4 right now. And I just checked my dimension up here again, and we're at 3/4 of an inch, maybe just a hair over. I went back and remeasured that side, and it's actually between 3/4 and an inch. So just trying to make sure they're both close, closer than they were when I bought them. All right, what I'm gonna do, guys, I decided I'm just gonna tack it. I think it'd probably pay me to be just a little bit cautious, tack it, put it in place real quick. It's only a few bolts, and check my dimensions, and if it's like I want it, then I'll weld it out. That'll keep me from having to cut it again. All right, so my new measurement from the pocket. It's 54 and 7/8, 55 and 1/8. So right now we're at 54 and 7/8 and 55 and 1/8. From there, and then if I measure across the bottom of the door, 52 to the leading edge, and (51 and 7/8). So the doors between the post and all is about 1/8 of an inch difference, and that could be the difference in where the A-pillar is, everything else, but everything else is lining up. 1/8 of an inch really isn't that bad, you know, when you talk about the specs of these Broncos back in the day. I prefer to have them a little bit tighter than that, but for right now I think I'm going to call it good because it's fitting much better. I got a much better gap up front. So it gets a little tighter at the top, but the roll bar will keep the windshield in place, and I can actually pull the roll bar, I can pull the windshield frame out away from the frame just a bit, but I would rather keep this nice and tight so we make sure we have a good seal up front. Go ahead and get these welded back up, and then we'll put the vent window back in it and see how it fits. So I've got the front side welded. I'm gonna go ahead and weld this back side in so we make sure that this is good and strong. Okay guys, I made a mistake I shouldn't have. You're always supposed to clean your metal before you weld, and I just kind of rushed through this. And the weld's fine, but to make sure you don't get impurities in your weld, I should have cleaned it and just removed some of that primer that they put on these parts. But it's very thin, like I said, it just blows right away. But anyways, if it's you, I would grind it. I'm just going to use a rat tail file to kind of help radius this edge right in here, instead of, you just can't really do any fine work with that grinder. That way when we do some body work, you know, this will lay out nice, so the weld's good until it took all the way through. Just a little valley you see there is just from the weld where it drew the metal, so it's all good. If I do this and I run across, you can tell we're nice and flat because we're basically hitting here, just a little bit right in here. But as far as the part is good. All right, so we're gonna get this quarter window put back in, and just so you guys know that we will be doing some videos on replacing the glass, the quarter window glass and seals, and all the gaskets, because we're going to put we're buying tinted glass for the windows and the windshield, and it'll go really nice with the best top because it's already got a kind of a dark tint to the rear glass. I've already checked on it, and it's actually, glass is pretty reasonable on these things. So we learned that in the past, to do a restoration and have everything, and then you have a bunch of old scratched up glass. It kind of it messed with mine and Johnny's OCD anyway.
You go to the car show and you roll the windows down.
Yep. We actually did that.
Until they told us that we had to roll them back up.
We weren't proud of our glass at all, and we did that. We showed up and rolled the windows down because whoever had it before us had sanded on a car at one time, and you could tell a DA ran right across the bottom of the glass on one side, and it just it just flew all over me. We replace it, we don't have to worry about that. All right, so I'm glad that I did this, and maybe, I don't know how many of you have run into this, but if you're buying these parts, you might run into it. So anyways, it worked out well. This will clean up fine. I'm happy with it. My lines are good, and just another step forward. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm working on my steel, get everything lined up, making sure everything is as close as I can possibly get it before we start wiping it. So a little bit more. We're gonna do a video on that and how I kind of prep these parts. So we appreciate you guys hanging in there with us. Sorry about the rain, getting a little noisy, but you guys remember, subscribe if you haven't. It helps us out. And like I said, just tune in next time. So we appreciate you watching, and you guys take care. Bye.